Shalom, friends, and welcome to this week's ongoing installation of a Bisselleh Torah. We read the second parsha from the book of Shemot, the book of Exodus this week, called Va'era. We finished last week's Torah reading where God attempted to tell Moses several times over, I need you to confront Pharaoh and tell him to release the Jewish people. And I need you to also go to the Jewish people, B'nai Israel, and let them know that they are to be freed. It was an impossible task for Moses. He realized that he wasn't going to succeed. And in fact, he doesn't. But God tells him, nonetheless, this you must do. Despite his protestations, Moses grudgingly walks forward and does what God has told him to do. And all the while, God affirms Moses' doubts. He tells him, they're not going to listen to you. Pharaoh's not going to heed your words. I'm going to have to send several plagues in order for him to be able to listen to what you have to offer. And the Jewish people, they don't want to hear what you have to say either. What a task this is to put before Moses. L'chol eit u'l'chol zman, says the book of Kohelet, the book of Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything. And sometimes the time is not right for something to happen. But the time nonetheless is propitious for something to be laid into place for it to blossom later on. And such is what we encounter in the reading this week. We read also in Pirkei Avot that when a child is 5 years old, they should be learning Torah. And by the time a child is 10 years old, they should start learning Mishnah. And when I teach this to parents nowadays, they kind of roll their eyes. At 5 years old, my child is supposed to know Torah, and at 10 years old, they're supposed to learn Mishnah? How can they possibly do that? But there is a time when the exposure must take place so that when they've learned Torah at 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, when we open the Mishnah to them, they have some context in which to place this, and it will resonate with them. There's a time for everything. Mishnah doesn't happen at 5, it happens at 10. Torah doesn't happen at 3, it happens at 5. And so it is with the Torah reading today, that although the Jewish people are not ready to hear what Moses has to say, and certainly not ready to hear God, God says nonetheless, you need to do this now so that when the time is absolutely ready for the Jewish people to be freed, they will then have been able to take in what they've already heard and dismissed, but then reassess it in the new light of the present moment. So it is with our lives too, is it not? That oftentimes somebody will give us a word of criticism, and we will be dismissive of it. Sometimes we'll just get angry with them. How can they say such an awful thing to me? But if we tuck it away in the back of our minds, maybe a year or a month, even a day later, we may say, well, you know what? What they actually said had some resonance, has some truth in it. We weren't ready to hear it at that time, but nonetheless, the path was laid so that when we were ready to absorb what the learning was, it was readily available to us. Things don't always happen when we want them to happen. They certainly don't happen in the way that we want them to happen. But if we open our eyes and keep our heart and our mind open, always, to things that we like and to things also, and this is pivotal, that we don't necessarily want to hear or see or like, sometimes they will become invaluable treasures for our future. Shabbat Shalom. I wish you open eyes and an open heart, an open soul.